Hi, hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Lay, here with my co-host, Matty B. And, man, we are in a weird NFL mix here. Before we even get into the college carousel coaching stuff, I brought up the Bears game. I think it was the Bears last week, right? The officiating, how it swung my game. And apparently, there's been people that have reached out because they've noticed it. Not only noticed it, but there's other sites that have started to track how a bad officiating call has been able to swing a couple of these games. I think the Lions had one where there was like a phantom pass interference maybe or something. And then looking at, even the Lions game yesterday, I think it was yesterday, where Baker Mayfield was tripped going down. Not that they would have been into the game, but if they call that trip and they're able to score, then you're like at least having a chance to win or tie the game. And so I'm starting to get worried that we're looking at a game in a sport that the teams are so close together, they can just, like I brought up, the Chiefs left tackle false starts almost every play. The Eagles, their push is a false start almost every play. They can call holding if they wanted to almost every play. I watched Hutchinson. I know Ohio State fans say that he stinks, and same with Michigan State fans. He's a bust. But they couldn't block him last night. And they're just pulling him down, doing whatever they can to stop him. And it could have been holding. It could have been whatever, because like you're looking at a guy that could get hurt again. And then people will start to say, well, he's injury prone. It's like, well, if you're letting them pull and tug a guy around, I don't know if you can consider that injury prone if that's what's causing the injuries. But if you're listening, try to keep track, and if you find something, send it to us. Because I watch a lot of the games, but it's hard. I should start writing down when I see ref calls that are out of bounds. But apparently that rant that I went on last week hit home with a lot of people, because it's not really just even affecting the game. You're affecting gambling. You're affecting fantasy football like it did for me, where you take a call that the announcer said should never have been called, and that lost my fantasy week for me, right? It also could have lost the game for someone else. If you're gambling and you're betting for one of those fantasy like things, not even a fantasy, but just like doing a prop bet to see if Adunze scores, you lost your gambling bet, right? And that's a key thing, because if these start popping up, are we going to see a lawsuit? Because the most insane thing that I've been seeing, and I was talking to some buddies over the weekend, I'm starting to get ads. I don't know did we talk about this on the show yet? I'm starting to get ads telling us not to contact players if they lose you a gambling bet, which is like the most insane pointed ad. When I'm watching a game, it's like, when you lose your bet, don't blame it on the player. So I'm thinking, no, I'm blaming it on the officiating. And this ad is making me think that the league is doing it, right? You can't tell me that they don't know, that their sponsor doesn't say, hey, Adunze has way too many bets on him scoring a touchdown this week. Don't let it happen. He catches a touchdown and they make a phantom call to make sure that, guess what, he doesn't catch a touchdown. Because that's pretty easy to do, right? It's not like there's guys that are, he could have a broken play or something but they can call holding on every play. They can call linemen downfield on a lot of these plays. I saw it happen. Was this the Michigan game again? One of the games I watched college, the linemen, when they showed the replay, they called linemen downfield on an RPO. They showed the replay with the line. You know how they have the line highlighted yellow? And he wasn't past it, right? And I know the officials, it's hard because you're standing on the line of scrimmage pretty much, I think. And you have to kind of gauge how far the guy's going upfield. But if they had some way to do a digital line on the field, like light up turf or something, so that the official could see where the line is, and people in the crowd, just like on TV, could see where the line is, I think it would make the sport 100 million times better. And I think you would get a better game. Like, there are a couple times where the guy goes down, and what was the game I was watching? I think it was NFL. He was on the line to gain. I forget who was running. It was a quarterback or someone. And they spotted it like a yard short. And then they were like, well, they're going to buzz it in. And they never buzzed it in. They just punted like real fast, right? And I thought, you can't, if the guys in the booth are saying, hey, they marked it a yard short, let's wait and see if they buzz it in. Why can't the announcers buzz it in? Right? Because then, how do I know that official was like, no, we need him to punt here. Mark it a yard short. Right? That's why I loved when they did the ESPN booth and they're telling you, this is what we're talking about in the booth. Because otherwise, I don't know what their train of thought is, other than now I'm watching the games and I'm thinking, well, they needed a punt here. Let's just mark it a yard short. You can't really complain about it. I mean, heck, the Florida State ending, I know I'm getting out of order here, but the Florida State ending is the exact same angle. Almost a decade ago, I complained about Ohio State having that in their stadium in overtime, where they didn't have a down the field line camera view when Barrett was short, because you can tell he's short based on the hash mark and his shadow, right? And like where his elbow is, he's a yard short. But because the camera view was so idiotically angled, the exact same angle as the Florida State one, you don't know for sure. So they can't make the change. They'll say, you know what? Got to stick with the call on the field. And if it's a poor call on the field because the official's out of position, guess what? Game over.
Yep.
And it was insane because I thought, if you compare the two, the Florida State guy was way closer to touchdown than what JT Barrett was to getting a first down. Same weird behind the shoulder angle. And yet they had the one view, and the guy, of course, and this is why I had told you on our show that we need to get, every stadium has an upper deck, right? Very few in between doesn't have an upper deck. And heck, a lot of them have luxury boxes that go the entire length of the field pretty much. You can't tell me that they can't create a rail that has a movable camera that some guy just lines up with the first down marker, and then they have two cameras on that same rail looking at the end zone every game. You don't need it from both sides because you're doing a top-down view, right? Most of the pylon ones, I think the Florida State pylon they showed, they didn't have the angle because a guy stood in front of it, because the pylon's only like a foot tall, right? You're always going to have a guy standing in front of it. Are you serious? A very rare case. But if you have it up from the booth view, and you even have, I mean, heck, they could even just have another one on the other side if they really wanted to. I'm trying to think of like what stadium wouldn't have some type of railing, and I mean, they could do it back on the rail part where the student section is. I know at Michigan Stadium in the student section, they had a crane type thing that had like an arm on it that they would pull up to shoot the student section during commercials. What if there's like a way to just have that crane kind of like just hanging there? It wouldn't even have to be as high, like above the student section, but it would just be kind of on the wall. I mean, I think most stadiums have a wall around it. That would be at least get you over the player's head a little bit compared to, and you could keep the pylon cam too. I'm not saying get rid of it. I'd want to have more cameras, not less. Right? So if you have a pylon cam and a guy standing in the way and you see like his elbows blocked, but you have one that's a little bit taller looking down, you would have a better chance of getting it. And the fact that they don't have it, it can't really be money, right? Connor Stalions taking iPhone cameras, dude, and they made it seem like it was the worst thing ever. Those aren't expensive. If you think really that he had such great footage from an iPhone camera, then why don't you just have extra iPhone cams that you could see right around, taking better camera angles from the end zone then? Right? It's almost like they don't want the call to be right. If there's some little hint of doubt, then that's all they need, especially with the gambling. I'm starting to really get worried because I had always said like gambling should be legal, whatever they want to do. But now, when I wanted it, I didn't want the league involved. It's too late. The league is involved. Their ads are everywhere. And the fact that I'm watching a game and they're telling me, hey, don't tweet at our players, don't do anything, don't touch the merchandise, bro, is just insane to me, because you know something's going on. But the cat's out of the bag, and they're not going to just turn the money off. No one ever turns down money. It's already opened. NFL is getting direct money from gambling things. And so now they can never go back. But they know players are now getting harassed, and they know it looks very suspicious. And we've already had cases in the NBA and other sports of guys taking bribes or whatever, and they pretend like it was a one-off. Dude, you're barely paying these refs. Barely paying them. Right? Compared to the players.
Well, I think this speaks to a bigger issue right now with the shortages that we have for officials. We're seeing it more at the high school level. There have been multiple high school games this season that have had to be played on either Thursday or Saturday because they don't have enough crews to complete all the games that need to be officiated. So trying to have guys double up, and they're having teams play Saturday games and Thursday night games, almost following this college model because they don't have guys. And then of the crews that you get, a lot of those guys are really elderly too that are officiating. So it really puts the teams in a tough bind.
Plus, the officials and admins probably know each other from years. I mean, we joke about having the same officials that officiated my games that are still out there. You can't tell me that they don't know the new guys, because like a lot of guys that I know from playing are now either coaches or in admins or whatever. High school, there's no type of like thing blocking a guy from just being friends and saying like, hey, I'll officiate your game. And then you come and give me my check, and I'm behind it's like $1,000. And then I know, like, all right, got to get you guys in the playoffs. Like, right? I'm not saying that it happens, but I'm saying that's easy to do. And we hear about it happening all the time with officials or players' family. And I mean, with the gambling now hitting like college and how much money's being thrown around, just in terms of buyouts and things, it's getting crazy. And now, even with the injury type stuff, because it was last week, USC had like their gambling roster, right? And then they played a guy, I think it was last week they played Michigan. They played a guy that wasn't eligible for gambling, and then they had to pay a fine. But that's because their other two guys got hurt. In reality, that's against the rules now. Is it fine worthy to play guys that are ineligible? Because in the past, that's usually a forfeit. But with gambling, it's a whole new thing. So now we don't know. And I don't even think teams are required to even put out their roster, because I think I saw Belichick was doing the Jim Harbaugh where he didn't put a roster out and people thought it was funny before they started losing every game. So now it's like, all right, well, make the rules the same. Make them the same. If you need to have guys that are either eligible or ineligible, make it the same, and then make there be a penalty, right? If you're sneaking guys in or whatever. Because if someone brought up that Jameis video, you're probably familiar, where he was suspended and he came out anyway, full dress, like he was going to play, pretending like he wasn't suspended. And Jimbo's in the end zone yelling at him, and he's like, what? Was that this game? Was that this game I'm out? I don't know. Like, do players even want to win like that anymore? I don't know. So we're looking at an entire different thing. And my other thing from like just injuries, it's tough to know whenever you have a guy coming back from IR in the NFL, and I know it hurts fantasy. Like, what do I need to do? You have a guy like JJ. I'm not calling him out for like faking an injury, but he had 2 injuries that usually have a pretty quick return time, especially for quarterbacks. Right ankle sprain, and then last year was a meniscus, which usually is only a couple weeks to heal. For running backs, right? Not even just a quarterback. And he's supposed to be back, and they're kind of just like, you know what? We're losing. We don't care. Our line is bad. Maybe we don't rush him back. And looking at, I think my opponent in fantasy has him, and his other quarterback's on a bye. And I was thinking, well, that stinks for him. Like, he doesn't know if JJ's coming back, and they're playing on Thursday, so he's probably not going to come back. And I have the Vikings, Jones, the running back, same thing. He's out. My other running back's on a bye. Like, what do I do? Guess I'll find out Thursday, right? Is he coming back or not? They said last week it was going to be week 7. Well, then I think that was week 7, right? So now we're on week 8. And now they're saying it might be week 9. It's like, just give it to me straight. Like, you know what the injuries are? Either you're holding him because you don't think he is good, or you don't, like, what are you doing? But that and the officiating thing is really taking it out of me this week for the, I think it was, I'm trying to think of what the other one was. I think it was like an Eagles one where, did they have a late penalty too? And then they were able to overcome it. And I thought, they want the Eagles to lose?
Well, yeah, because they had the Minnesota Hawkinson touchdown that ended up getting reviewed.
Yeah.
And he was like, the official said it was legal on the field, and then New York came in and said no, it wasn't.
And see, that's the one thing where, how do you know? Like, who's making the end call, right?
Well, clearly it's the league, because I'm waiting to see how much he gets fined.
Who?
Hawkinson.
I mean,
you can't talk about the league like that. Say the official said that it was a catch, and then it got called not a catch.
I know there's all kind of things that the league stepping in is my fear, right? And I don't even know if they did a third party, would that really even matter? Like, would I be 100% convinced that it's above board? Probably not, right? I mean, I look at baseball too, because you have the Dodgers and the Blue Jays in the World Series, and all the Yinzers are out in force, dude. And I've kind of just stopped talking about it on the show, to be honest, because every year it was the same thing. They have, I think there's like number 1 and number 4 in roster payroll. Yeah. If you're able to pay for your team to stick together, you're going to win. Like, the Dodgers are out buying guys. Hasn't really worked for the Yankees consistently, but they're able to win at least what seemed the World Series every decade, which is pretty good. Some teams never even get there, like the Mariners. And so if you're able to invest, and I think that's just what makes the other fans annoyed, because we're seeing it with college football right now. And that's why I brought it up with baseball. Yeah, some teams are going to go ahead and just spend on an outrageous roster like A&M. Were they able to win? No, they're basically like the Yankees right now, where it looks like they're good, they're undefeated, they haven't played a tough schedule, and you're kind of wondering, is this year they make the playoffs? I don't even think they've made the playoffs. And so when you have that high of a roster payroll, you're going to have guys that are disgruntled, not doing whatever. So it's really about the sweet spot. But I'm not saying that it's not worth it, because if you have a higher roster payroll, you're going to have a better chance of winning. I mean, I don't understand how Ohio State always gets the good press, right? Ryan Day comes out and says they paid over $20 million for their roster. No one bats an eye. They keep making fun of A&M, right? Because it wasn't like Ohio State was winning either with their high roster till last year, and they had 2 losses. So if they didn't win the national championship last year, they could have very easily lost to Texas or someone. Would the media started making fun of them? Right? You can make fun of A&M, But it's like some teams, they don't care because they know who makes the money. They know, talking about Ohio State, they have a bunch of crazy fans. They're not going to make fun of Ohio State. Are you serious? They're going to let them do whatever they want. And so even with that going, you're still seeing a more parity in college football, where you're going to have teams that maybe never had a chance before finally have a chance. And it's not that there's a minimum spend, right? That's where, like, Major League Baseball, I think they tried to implement a minimum spend. But then you get bad contracts and a cheap owner, and then you're locked in, right? That's what college football is at right now. You have teams that just don't want to spend. And guess what? They're not going to be competitive. The number one thing that's driving college football, though, is it's not just one guy making the decision. You're going to have a ton of alums that get really pissed off, and they're not buying tickets, and they're trashing your team on social media. And that's why I think we're seeing a crazy coaching carousel going on right now. We're in the middle of the great reset. And I think baseball should take a look at this, and they need to do the same thing. People want Bob Nutting out. Major League Baseball should 100% put him out. Do a fan-owned stock option like the Braves have, where you can put together some type of thing where people can go in and they can vote and have a say. And if they don't like the direction of the team, guess what? Buy more shares. Like, try to put more money in. Give people a way. Because right now, having Bob Nutting being like, I'm trying my best, and he's not doing anything, hurts the sport of baseball. I don't understand how it wouldn't. Like, you're killing one of the craziest sports markets out there, Pittsburgh, and you're making it not even matter. They don't have an NBA team, so they're all in on football to hockey to baseball year round, right? There's no other competition come October other than like the start of the Pens right now. And the Steelers, like, they would rather be into watching playoff baseball. I guarantee it, as a team gets rolling. And that's the way I think baseball could fix it, is if the other owners cared. And of course, they're not going to vote on this, because if they vote their friends out and you get a bunch of community-owned teams, then what? Right? Then they're going to be next. Look at the Cowboys and Jerry Jones, right? He's horrible. He is horrible. There's no other way around it. And right now, the Packers, consistently good, because you're answering to what? Thousands of fans that would just be annoyed and crush your team and demand change if there's something that needs to be done. Where Jerry Jones is like, we're making the slow changes and doing X, Y, Z, but they're not building the fundamentals. And I think that we will see a change like this. More teams kind of opened up. I think the Denver Broncos were close to becoming kind of like a Braves-owned stock market type ownership, and it kind of fell through. I think, and it'll probably be slow moving. I'm saying within the next 30 years, I think you're going to see a lot of teams go that direction. Why? Because sports have become such big business that having just one guy or one family, and that family is horrible at ownership, right, just isn't going to last. We've seen owners get pushed out. Sterling in the NBA, that the Panthers' old owner, was it Richardson, pushed out. Like, they'll find a way to get you out if you're not part of their like good old gang or whatever. You get pushed out. And so I think the government, and I don't want the government involved anyway, but I think if local government got together and started to say no to tax bailouts, you would see a shift, right? Like, you're giving me tax money, but then you're going to threaten to move the team. That's a no from me. And then you work with the league to get a community ownership that's more local, like the Packers, where they can't move because of bylaws. They're not going to throw away the Packers brand to have them move to London or something, right? They'd have to rename the team and do a bunch of other stuff. They're just not going to do that. Baseball, they're having trouble. They need to move teams around. They're afraid to kind of pull the trigger. Like, they need to move Tampa Bay. Where are they going to move them to? North Carolina, like they keep talking about how they're investigating North Carolina. Are they going to add a new team? Are they just going to move the Rays up? Like they're also looking into Nashville. Why? Like, why are you adding 2 new teams? Is that what the plan is? The divisions are already balanced right now. They want to go back to like odd, unless they're doing what, 4-team divisions and trying to make an 8-team playoff from each side. That's probably the greedy solution, right? When it go to 32 like the NFL, and then you'd have 8 4-team divisions, 4 on each side, right? You double it, have 4 division winners in the playoffs and 4 wild cards, and then you have like a big monstrosity playoff solution thing. They won't even have to play each other. The 4 wild cards, you just have the 2 wild cards play each other. Do they have 8 now? Or is it 6 in? It's 6, right?
I believe 6.
But if you add two expansion teams, Matt, and add that extra division, then you got to have 8 playoff teams. That's just how it's got to work. So that's my baseball rant into the NFL stuff. I don't know what a good solution is, man. And like, I'm looking to see some of the injuries and guys that are coming back. It looks like the league parity is kind of there, but like the one Chiefs game had like that iffy end of call. And it was like, all right, we know they don't want the Chiefs to be eliminated from the playoffs this early. They're 100% getting that call. They're just going to get it. Like if you're watching the game, and honestly, it's had me tune out to some of these games. Whose idea? I know it's ESPN. Who's trying to put like 2 Monday night games on? Why? Why are you staggering them and having the other one start at like 10 p.m. on ESPN2? That makes no sense. You have to be a real diehard to watch your team play at like 10 p.m. on a Monday night. I wonder what the rating is for that. Are people really buying the new ESPN package to get the second game Monday night? It was Texans and Seahawks, right?
Yeah.
I'm not watching that game. I have a bunch of Seahawks on my fantasy team and Nico. It's not worth it for me. Like there's nothing in my mind that would say, you know what? I need to watch this game at 10 p.m. No, guess what? I don't. And I don't want to watch some of these other trash games they're throwing out there. So have you been watching more or less football, or about the same, you think, this year?
I would say by a long shot, I would say less. And that's just because of how active I've been with my own teams. That there's just not as much interest. Not to mention that they've been pretty bad lately as well.
Yeah. Well, how's your teams doing?
They must be rubbing off on the professional and college teams that I watch, because we had a rough weekend. We went varsity lost. We just struggled in general. I thought we were going to be able to move the ball a little bit better than what we did, and just disappointing overall. Followed it up with Saturday. Our 3rd and 4th graders were in the championship, and we go out for the coin toss, and I have a couple bigger players on our, like, consistently throughout the year we've had a line that was pretty big. So we go out for the coin toss, and there was a kid that like made my big player look tiny, and I was like, "Oh man, we're in trouble." And the team we were playing was undefeated and unscored on, and they maintained it. So we finished in 2nd place. So it was a pretty good year overall, considering first year in a new conference.
Did you ask for a birth certificate?
I'm not quite that crazy, but I thought, holy cow, you're almost looking me in the eye. But I'm not a giant.
Hey, guys, can't wait to get started. I'm just going to need to see that birth certificate real fast. I know that happened to my brother a bunch of times, dude. My mom used to carry it around.
Well, And that's why I didn't ask for it, because I was like, no, because then whenever it's like, oh, yes, we do have the birth certificate. Here you go.
Then you feel like a jerk.
It's like, yeah, then you definitely feel like a jerk.
Then you're like, I don't know. This doesn't seem like it's an official state license certificate. I'm going to have to call this into the courthouse real quick. Guess we'll have to wait till Monday.
Just keep delaying it.
You know, like this is going to be contested if he plays. I'm just throwing that out there, and then he has to sit there. That's what the other coach used to do for my brother. Like, hey, if he plays, we're going to have to contest this, and I'm like, contest it with who? The league? Like the league is like my dad. Like, that's why it always cracks me up when you get into youth sports, because I've been seeing, like, for my team, we're coming in on the last week here too, and at this point, I'm like burnout. And they're talking about like doing extra skill training and things like that. And it's like, I'm just working on like sets and things. And we had a game played where they would try to give our kid a penalty kick from almost like point blank. And the other team's lined up, and I'm yelling at my kid, don't shoot it. Don't shoot it right at him. Like, are you going to kill these kids? Because they're not used to it. And the league rule is you're supposed to pass. So we had been talking about like passing it, and as soon as you get the pass, you have to time it up and kick it in. Same with like a corner or anything. We've been working on like passing it, and for the first time like all year, we've had great passes or either great attempts, and like they haven't been able to sync up. But it was like a perfect call. The guy stood right behind their line, so he just passed it right by him and scored. Made it look like we've been practicing all year. The exact same play on how to beat it. And I told the official, like, I'm like, dude, we're like, the rules say we're not supposed to kick it directly because they don't want the kids to be getting their heads knocked off. And he's like, oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. Because when you're officiating, we talked about it, they don't have enough officials. So these guys are officiating every age group, and they're young kids that are usually playing high school or college or whatever that are officiating. And it's hard to keep all the rules straight, right? You know, you go to a sport game like for college football, and you see guys that are NFL fans yelling out incorrect penalties and things like that. Or high school, same thing. Guys that only watch NFL or college, high school rules are slightly different. Like, if you don't know the differences, it's very easy to get them confused. And so that's where, like, you'll hear a guy like, he didn't have both feet in. He didn't have both feet in. It's like, buddy, 1 foot. Wrong league. Go back, watch Steelers tomorrow. Right? So I'm glad that just some of the work that we're putting in, just practicing fundamentals and things like that, have paid off. But I think talking to what they had been saying, it seems like they don't officially keep record, but we're still, even with our one bad week, we still have, I think we're still in first place. They haven't officially said it. The one team that would be kind of close to us, I think, is the one we're playing this week. So we'll find out. It'll pretty much be a de facto championship match based on what we've heard. So good way to end it. Right, unless we lose, then I'll come back and I'll be complaining. Like, we should have hammered the fundamentals harder. Because honestly, that's all I'm doing. Right, I think for youth coaches, I see a lot of guys talk strategy, or they're like trying to put in, because like we all kind of practice in the same facility. So you see coaches spend like a half hour just practicing like one play, like a cross or something that might come up. Right, in a game, might come up. And meanwhile, I'm practicing just scrimmaging and trying to get them into position, which you have to do the entire game. And it's not like I can be on the field in the middle of the game, but helping position my guys. So I guess just different philosophies. And I don't know which one's right. Just got to do what you're doing. Like, there's no one telling you what to do. I just know that, like, seeing a lot of youth coaches, I get disappointed. Like, if my kid was learning and it's like, you're not really doing anything. And I understand why, like, the kids don't want to come to practice, right? They don't want to you're not having fun. Got to have fun.
Yeah.
Do you guys practice your celebration dances? We don't. I tell them, do that at home. Encouraged, where I encourage it, but I don't practice it.
Practice it at home.
Yeah, it's like, all right, you're going to go and practice some dribbling, practice some juggling if you can, and practice some celebrations, and then get ready to bust them out, dude, on Saturday. Got to bring the hype.
So one of the things we did to try to get our kids more motivated, we said rent was due, and if they shut them out, we'd buy them pizza, and we ended up with like 3 or 4 shutouts. And then as like some of the incentive was like wearing off, we're like, all right, for every point you give up, you owe us push-up, and for every point you score, we'll owe you push-ups. So then we would count them out for us.
See, I could do the push-ups much easier in soccer. Low scoring games, do 3 goals. I do 3 push-ups all day.
So you have to just, like, make it tenfold.
No, dude, you don't mean make it tougher. I'll make them run sprints to the school and back.
No, you're not allowed. You should know from your training you're not allowed to use push-ups as punishment or running as punishment.
No, you are. You're not allowed to use physical beratements or something. Running was encouraged because that's part of the training as long as it's tied into practice or something. So like if I want to make them run 100 yards and then I'll put the ball in like the right in front of the goal or whatever the penalty kick mark is, I make them run the entire length of the field and kick it, that could count, dude, as punishment. Got to do it 20 times, dude. They're like dogging it, and then I kick it, and I'm like, get back there, try again. We don't coach. If we were playing outside, because right now the age group, they don't do outside teams. But I think that could be where it really takes. And I don't even know if I'd end up coaching like that older division or whatever. Because I see some of their coaches practicing, and they're like goofing off. And I watch the one coach, he like kicks like the first bit of practice every week. He's like just kicking goals and having his kids try to block him. And I'm like, is this you practicing, dude? Like for your adult league? But I don't say anything because it's like, I don't know how old the kids are, right? Could be like teenagers. I don't think it's like a middle school thing, but you never know. That's the one thing where I don't know if these coaches are just like former players that are coaches, or if they're just coaching because their kids playing and they're just like kind of hanging out. You don't know the level of craziness, right?
Right.
So I do say that I do see some cross. One of my kids' baseball coaches, he's been at a couple of our games watching him play and cheering along. So I've been chatting him up. And I thought, well, that's nice. Dude, like not related to the kid or whatever, coming out supporting him play other sports. So that's always good to see too. Because a lot of the times the coaches is the role model, right?
Yeah.
That's why as we get into the college thing here, the Bill Belichick stuff, he's supposed to be the role model. He's acting like a jerk. And the team is awful. And so I sent you a list of coaches that they think are going to get fired next for this coaching carousel that's crazy. Because Napier's gone. Who else? We talked, Franklin was out. Who got fired this week? Is it just Napier?
Napier was next.
I want to say there was another one missing.
There was a whole slew that were on the verge.
So the next one that I had sent you, if you're looking at odds of this said top programs, obviously Norvell is on there with some surprises. Hugh Freeze, I understand they're kind of annoyed with him. He hasn't really delivered, which is surprising to me. Brian Kelly at LSU, Aranda at Baylor, and of course Dabo Sweeney. And we're not even talking about some other guys like Belichick and I think Jonathan Smith at Michigan State that we talked about a couple weeks ago, where if you look at programs that haven't won a conference game, if you're throwing Norvell on that list, you have to throw Smith for the Spartans on that list. And then you're getting into like a bidding coach war where now everyone's talking about Lane Kiffin. If Urban Meyer were to come back, unless he's waiting for the Texas job, this would be the ideal year for him because he can pretty much have his own, like name his own job. And then I don't know if you saw the Penn State rumors, but they're looking like they're targeting Freeman from Notre Dame, which surprised me. And I know he has no ties to Notre Dame.
I saw Florida that was their first guy.
They had Freeman on the list too?
They had Freeman and he just straight up said no.
Did he say no to Penn State?
I don't know if he said no to Penn State, but I know I was surprised to see that it was a straight up no for Florida.
So, okay.
And the one name that I heard tied to Florida was Lane Kiffin. And I know that he's been associated with pretty much everyone, but it seems like maybe there's a little bit of truth to that.
So I'm trying to look at this. So the Penn State one that they had rolled out is they are reaching out to Kalen DeBoer, which I didn't know if that was true or not. Some reports said they're not serious candidates, right? We talked about DeBoer wanting to be up north. It seemed like he wasn't going to really fit into Alabama. And if Penn State's going to swing big. I almost feel like they're throwing these names out because they are hiring Matt Rule, and then he just got toasted by Minnesota. Got knocked out of the rankings. Like, it's hard to tell, hey, Penn State guys, we're bringing in Matt Rule. Oh, what's his record? Oh, he lost to Michigan again. He hasn't beat him, actually, I don't think. I don't think he's beat Ohio State either. And they're like, we fired James Franklin for this? Like, you can't tell me, hey, we're firing Franklin because he can't beat Ohio State, Michigan. And then, hey, we're bringing in Matt Rule. What's his record against Ohio State, Michigan? 0-12 or whatever. Awesome. Great upgrade, dudes. And we paid his buyout. Insane. I did hear the Kiffin stuff. It started, he's supposedly on Penn State's list. The rumors were that he wants to stay in the South. Of course, Florida's going to go after him because they're using the Ole Miss ceiling as sort of his thing. Like, you're winning at Ole Miss, but you just lost a close game to Georgia because you don't have the depth that they have. At Florida, we can give you the depth, right?
I didn't realize how much of a financial separation there was between the two schools. Like, I thought that gap would have been much tighter.
Between Ole Miss and Florida?
Yeah.
Yeah, Florida's one of the top spenders. I mean, heck, if you want job security, their other coaches and their basketball coach was like involved in a scandal and they just ignored it and they won the national championship. Right? That's the truth. That's exactly what happened. So like, they'll support their guy. And I thought Ole Miss was recruiting better than what they have been, but honestly, it's just the effect of the NIL. You can't tell me that, in 2013 or whenever it was that Hugh Freeze was there, when they're cheating and paying players under the table, that they had this great top 5 recruiting class. And, that's why they want to go back to pre-NIL. Duh, makes sense, right? Because they didn't have to pay as much and they could afford it. Ole Miss can't afford to compete with like Texas or even Texas Tech or any of them in the South, right? Florida's in a good spot. That's why I said, and I've been open about this. Florida, the way they favor academics and stuff, if the money separation is big between them and the Big Ten, I would not be surprised to see them or another like Texas or someone jump to the Big Ten. You can't just say, hey, we're in the SEC, it's awesome down here, and then they're not competing and they're behind money because of just TV network deals. So as the Big Ten, people are like, they need to get in the South, They could really just wait it out. Nab Florida and Texas, they're both AAU. And then that would swing the entire shift because that would swing the SEC from being like the power two. So, like, if you lose Florida, and I know you could backfill with Florida State or something, but that's like the premier university down there, academic-wise and everything. And same with, like, if they grab Texas, like, I don't think you can make those up. You could add Miami and Florida State as a backfill, but in terms of, like, money and support, it's going to be tough to, especially Texas or even A&M. That's why I've been saying, don't be surprised if the Big Ten pushes a push to A&M and saying, like, look, we see these unbalanced divisions are trash. Come in. You're going to be in a division with, like, Nebraska and, like, Illinois and whatever. And with the way you're spending, you'll win that division every time. Like, do you want to be backseat to Texas and LSU? Or do you want to be making more money than them and making the playoffs because your division's easy? Because, like, who's going to say no? Nebraska? They could lose their coach. They could actually lose. It would be funny if Nebraska lost Matt Rule to Penn State. If I was Nebraska's AD, I would immediately hire James Franklin. Just for the lulz, dude. Because if Matt Rule goes to Penn State and he stinks, and they start winning 8 games a year, and Franklin goes to Nebraska, where they are and the way they're scheduled, and, like, they don't have, like, crossovers that are like Ohio State and Michigan every year, he could start winning 10 games there. Maybe 11 or 12. And yeah, he's back in the Big Ten, and he might have to fight one of those big schools in the championship game. But in Nebraska, they haven't been winning at all. So even if Franklin's just making the playoffs and winning, like, what were they last year? Semifinalists? Nebraska would be throwing a huge parade for that. Penn State fans were like, yeah, we're close, but we stink. Let's get rid of this guy. So that's my thing with Penn State. They're bragging about how they want to compete for national championships. If you can't get Freeman, because he has no ties to Notre Dame, yeah, they have the schedule. He already lost 2 games. It's tough for him to make it up. He's an Ohio State guy. They were also talking about bringing in Hartline. But if you believe the rumors from the way things went last year, was it last year or the year before when he was supposed to be the offensive coordinator and things were so bad, they brought in Chip Kelly? Like, he was demoted mid-season or whatever. They're only keeping Hartline around for recruiting. So if Penn State thinks that they can have a figurehead head coach for Hartline, perfect. I mean, he might never leave, though. Right? They gave him a shot. They could tell him, like, look what happened to Luke Fickell. Might not work out for you.
Yeah.
So stay here and be our ace recruiter. And no one will think anything of it. But, like, it's not a coincidence that, like, they bring in Chip Kelly and kind of just have Brian Hartline not really being the OC. Right? Is he even the OC this year? Maybe. I don't even know what their thing is, but
he's the passing game coordinator.
Yeah, he was supposed to be the co-head or the co-offensive coordinator, and he was supposed to be the head offensive coordinator, and it didn't work out. And so Ryan Day took it over, and they brought in Chip Kelly. I'm pretty sure that's how it went. So if Penn State were to offer him, I mean, you could say that they're getting pushback from Roll at that point. Because by the end of the season, you fire James Franklin, but if you hire Matt Roll and his team is 6-6 or something, how do you convince your donors that that's a good hire? I don't know how you can do it. He's already in the Big Ten. It's not like he's in the SEC or something where you're saying, like, we're going to throw more resources at you. Okay. Nebraska's been throwing resources at him. He was in the Big Ten West. Right? He watched Purdue and Northwestern and whoever else, Iowa, play for Big Ten championship games. I'm trying to think who all played against Michigan, right? Like, those were recent when Matt Rule was there. He couldn't get it done. Now with Oregon and USC there, Penn State's going to hire him? I mean, throwing out DeBoer out there, it would be funny, like, if things had fallen apart. Because, like, Penn State reached out. He won 2 big games, right, at Alabama. When Penn State reached out, they were still kind of mad that he lost to Florida State by 2 scores. So that could have very easily got the ball rolling. And it still might. Like, you don't know how Alabama's going to finish the year.
Yeah.
So I don't say count it out now because there are rumors that DeBoer wasn't happy. Credit Penn State for going big. There are also rumors that they're going after Urban Meyer. They're putting out feelers to basically every big name coach that's out there. I've heard they've even tried to reach out to Saban and them, which would be more of a stopgap, I would think. Saban has to be old. I just don't know what direction they're going to go. And same with Florida. I think right now, Florida and Penn State are the best two open jobs at this point right now. UCLA is clicking so good that if they don't promote their current staff, and I hate to say, like, you should just promote your current staff because a lot of times that doesn't work out. But it depends on how their year goes. If they keep winning, I think they're either undefeated in the Big Ten or they have one loss in the Big Ten. If they win out, they're in the Big Ten championship game. And so if they make it there, I would say you have to kind of promote them, right?
Yeah.
How would you not? Like, how would you watch your team, a team that people didn't think were going to compete, win out? And I don't know how hard their schedule is. I don't think they play Michigan based on my memory, but it can't be that hard because they're in the Big Ten, right? Everything's so spread out that it doesn't really matter. They play Indiana this week, and then they do have Ohio State. I was thinking they missed one of the two because then they would play Nebraska, winnable, Washington. I wasn't impressed by them last week, winnable, and then USC, which is hit or miss too. Actually, they haven't, or no, they did lose to Northwestern. That was the final straw, right? They fired their coach after that game. That's their only way they can make the playoffs is by winning the Big Ten. What do you think about Clemson, dude?
Well, I want to backtrack for just a sec because you brought up about Norvell being on the hot seat. And I feel like I had said last week I would have been surprised had they had fired him. I thought it was horrible that they ended up being in the spot that they were in, losing to Stanford. But I also think, like, one of the things that stood out to me is I was seeing the evaluation process being played out, is that with any of the other coaches that are either leaving or getting fired, they never bring up, to my knowledge, I haven't seen what the buyout is for the assistant coaches or like the other amounts of money that we're factoring in. And it was like only a Florida State thing that they were like, this whole process, if they get rid of Norvell, is going to cost them like $100 million plus. So they get rid of like Norvell's contract, plus the assistants, plus hire new people, plus like all this other stuff. And it's already been established now. When you look at some of these coaching contracts, it's heavy money up front. And it's the same people that I feel like were up in arms that Alabama was going to poach Norvell. They're now like, get him out of here. He's terrible. Like, you can't have it both ways. Like, if he was good enough to go undefeated a couple of years ago and win the conference, like, he's still the same person. There's just clearly some issues within the roster that he's trying to work out. And I think once you get a better grasp on that, of how to navigate, like the big issue he's had is he's lived in the portal. So you're going to die by these mercenaries. And I think there has to be a point where he has to start getting consistency in the coaching staff. Because I look at, in recent years, Miami and Florida, because those are the two schools that we're heavy with. They've had a lot of turnover in coaching staff. It's affected their recruiting, and now they have to be in a spot where they have to spend buku money to stay competitive on the national stage. Because if with all of the turnover, what's the first thing you see happen? The recruits are going to decommit and they're going to look and weigh other options. They're not going to go to a place where the coach is going to get fired anymore. So, I mean, even if they decide to move on from him or they don't, I think that Florida State's at, they're still in the middle of renovating their stadium, their standalone football facility. They're investing money on campus. Do you really want to, in addition, throw all of these coaches that were just hired this offseason out, or see some of that evaluation? And then I take it a step further, and if you're not going to throw down top tier money for Lane Kiffin, where are you going to put that money? Like, where's your investment? Because you're going to end up with a mid-tier coordinator or someone that's inexperienced that you're going to have to tie down to a huge contract to keep them from bailing in a year or two.
See, but you're throwing out the assistant stuff. Sometimes you don't have to buy all of those out because they'll keep them around for continuity. Right? Every time a new coach comes in, you'll hear about like certain guys sticking around and certain guys kind of going with their coach. And I think a lot of the assistant ones, their contracts have to have in there that if they go with the other coach, because if he leaves for another job or he takes another job is how they would word it, then their contract's null, right? Because I think looking at some of those, but honestly, dude, if he doesn't win an ACC game, that would be one ACC win in 2 years. He has to be fired. Like, you can't have a process and say, like, yeah, I know we beat Alabama. That's not worth going 0-9 in the ACC. Like, Stanford fired their coach. I'm pretty sure that was before they beat Florida State. Right? Like, you already have a former head coach as the offensive coordinator in Malzahn. You could just go the cheap route and just give him the reins for the rest of the year and see what happens and see if that gets you back on track. Because if it is like really a mercenary sting, it's going to be hard to fill that in. And I think that's where a lot of programs right now are struggling. Because you hear about, I bring up like the Michigan State and the Nebraska type stuff. And I know Michigan plays Michigan State, so I don't want to jinx it. But when you're bringing in a lot of transfers and you have a coach that's like, we're going to invest in money, we're going to try to get the best transfers for our program, and we're going to bring in like one of the top quarterback recruits in Raiola. And I think Michigan State had, I don't know if Charles was highly recruited or if he came with him from Oregon State. I think it's like, we're going to bring in our guys, and when it doesn't work out and you don't have the locker room, like Nebraska right now has to be looking for a bailout. And if Penn State throws them a lifeline, that's insane. And I had said the same thing, like there are rumors of Smith going back to the West Coast with UCLA. I highly doubt that's going to happen now, the way UCLA is playing, unless they totally bomb. But even then, if Michigan State doesn't win a conference game, why are you hiring their coach? Right? Like, you're better off taking a gamble on an up-and-comer from a smaller program like Cignetti. Right? A guy that has guys that he's recruited and he's won with lesser talent that he can bring with him, and a coaching staff that he's comfortable with and that's winning, that you can just bring with you. I think you're going to see a lot of coaches go that route. Yeah, you could pull for like a Lane Kiffin. He's been around. It might not work out. Same thing with Sarkisian. I've been around. One as a coordinator always finds a way to bungle it up. Right? I know Lane Kiffin's funny. He's like the only coach that's kind of around that makes jokes like Mike Leach used to do. But he always finds a way to lose. You can keep throwing resources at him. It wasn't like Florida isn't a better job than USC where he was at and couldn't win. Right? Didn't they leave him on the tarmac? You could say he's learned, but dude, he's been choking his entire head coaching career. And I have been on record saying like I wouldn't mind him coming to Michigan. Because at some point you're hoping that you can get the talent there and you have a top-ranked class or top-ranked roster, and he's had a top 10 team at Ole Miss. I don't know what their talent composite is. Because that's the one thing where if you're Lane and you keep losing and you really think it's a team talent composite issue, now you have potentially two other things. Because honestly, it would be pretty funny the other hand, too, is I've seen Brian Kelly, dude, is linked to the Penn State job. They're looking to fire him at LSU. LSU's 6th right now. They're choking it away. Like, Lane could just wait. I'm trying to see where even Ole Miss is on this thing. They're 21. So they're right around Nebraska level. So, yeah, it wouldn't be a stretch. Florida's 12. They're right behind Penn State and Michigan. LSU is 6th. Texas would be 4. So, like, Sarkisian, realistically, if you're not winning, like, I don't know what you're supposed to do at that point. Alabama's 2. That's where, like, if DeBoer was to take a jump to Penn State, could he continue to recruit? He wasn't recruiting like a gangbuster at Washington. So you're really just trying to get a guy that's more comfortable in the North, has recruiting connections in the North, out of Alabama. Probably not going to work out if they're winning. But stranger things have happened. Right? No one thought Jimbo was going to be bought out with a gigantic contract from Florida State to go to A&M. A&M's 8 right now, and Clemson's 7. That's why I think the Dabo thing, for all the excuses I hear from Clemson fans down here, they can't be making them. Your team has top 10 talent. It's not that you don't have talent from the portal. You're not well coached. You can easily see it if you watch the game. Now, whether it's the nepotism hires that a lot of Clemson fans bring up to me, yeah, maybe he has too many friends and family on the staff. And that's what the issue is. But are they going to fire him? How far? I mean, Coach O was fired right after winning a national championship. It's been a while for Dabo. What are we going on? 7 years?
Yeah.
And so a lot of these coaches, like Brian Kelly, I find it hard to believe that if he's fired, like Penn State's going to bring him in. Or maybe Penn State just hires him and then they don't have to fire him. And then Lane goes to LSU. And then Florida, like, where do they go? They try to get Cignetti? Because, like, yeah, Indiana has money and they're throwing it around. But, like, if you're trying to win and trying to cement yourself as a coach, like, I think anyone is pretty much open season. I wouldn't be surprised to see who's moving around, and that includes, like, I don't think Ryan Day would go anywhere. It doesn't seem like, for all the rumors you hear about him, maybe the NFL being interested in him, I don't think the NFL thinks he's good enough, if I'm being honest. Top talent at Ohio State every year. They put up, a 10 spot on Michigan last year? Classic. That's exactly what the NFL wants, right? A guy that on equal ground loses 4 in a row to his rival. I'm sure every NFL franchise wants a guy that loses to their closest rival 4 times in a row like that. No signs of improvement, right? Can't score. Do you have the advantage in talent? Yeah. What's the line? Like 20 points. What's the result? Loss. Oh, classic. Classic NFL hire. That's the exact guy we want to bring up. Because a lot of the guys that jump from college to NFL, they usually bomb, right? So what do you do? I don't know. And that's what we're going to find out. It's been a crazy thing. I know you're torn up over Norvell. You like him. And I'm just looking at the facts here.
Well, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong with the losses. He has some really, really, really bad losses. But I also am looking at it objectively of who are you realistically, like, maybe you're not happy. And I use Penn State as part of this. Franklin has won a lot of regular season games for them. He's had them close. Are they really going to make that national championship push? I'm going to say probably not.
Dude, I'm in the same boat. Because even like with the Ohio State winning all the time, and it looks like they are the best positioned team to go on a run of maybe like 3 national championships in a row, or like somewhere close to kind of how Georgia had it a couple years ago. There's no guarantees.
Yeah.
There's a lot of parity right now. You don't know.
And there are people that are pissed at Ryan Day, and they're wanting to fire him. It's like, You fire him. Who are you getting that's moving the needle more? Like, there's not a prime Bill Belichick or Nick Saban that's available. That
Well, that's
like,
the thing.
There's wild card coaches that are, you know, they're unproven. Like, you could look at guys like Freeman, who hasn't won the national championship. Franklin hasn't won a championship. DeBoer hasn't won the championship. Like, all these guys, they're even to look at like Heupel and Kiffin and, you know, even Norvell in there. Like, they haven't won on the national stage. Even Malzahn. Like, I'm a fan of his, but outside of being a coordinator, he struggled as a head coach. So it's like, how comfortable do you feel bringing those guys in, knowing that they haven't gotten it done yet?
I'm in the same boat, dude. I'm hearing it from a lot of Michigan fans, and I'm just, at this point, I'm numb, and I haven't really been talking about it. But a lot of them want Sharon Moore gone, and I feel like they're overly critical on the defense. And if you look at the numbers, yeah, there were a couple bad games where USC's on there and Texas last year. But the defense single-handedly beat Ohio State last year. They single-handedly beat Alabama. Every game since Sharon Moore's been the head coach, the offense has been a problem. I saw a meme where it was like Michigan State has given up at least 38 points to every Power 5 opponent this year. And the first comment was like, here comes Sharon Moore with a 23 spot. And I thought, you know what? That's probably right, dude, because the offense is so bad. And he's an offensive coach. His background is in offensive line play, which hasn't been good and has seen a lot of injuries. And I don't know if it's like he needs to take a step back or just turn the keys over. It seems like since the Oklahoma loss, he's let the offense open up a little bit. And when the offense opens up a little bit, then the defense plays freer. Because I felt my entire time watching him last year and this year that the defense has played aggressive because they feel like they need to win the game. And you watch the Fresno game where they had a pick six. I think it was Will Johnson late, like sealing the deal. And I thought, like, the defense shouldn't need to gamble to beat Fresno State, right? The offense is that bad. And watching it this year, it's like the same thing, like can't move the ball, can't finish. Yeah, they have Bryce. They let him unwind a little bit, but only like when they absolutely have to. And I'm like, is he too conservative? But if they fire Sharon Moore, I don't know what happens. I notice a lot of tendencies that James Franklin has that Sharon Moore has, where they're, on offense, they're so overly conservative that when they need to go deep, it works because teams are kind of like, what is this? Why are you just throwing the ball up deep? And it's working, right? And it worked for Penn State, and they were on a tear where they beat teams, and the same with Sharon Moore. They haven't really lost teams, even last year, that they shouldn't have lost, like Freeman losing to Northern Illinois, right? Or then they lose to Marshall with him too. Like, how are you losing to teams that are so under-talented you, and you're like the top candidate for a bunch of jobs? To me, that's mind-blowing, right? I don't understand how you could be like losing to these dog programs and then being like, oh, he's going to be the best coach. How'd you do this year? Oh, two top teams we played, we lost. Classic. Going to get in the playoffs? Yeah, our schedule's horseshit. Did you see it? Of course, we could easily win out. That's the Notre Dame way. So maybe Freeman doesn't want to leave because he knows he messes up half the time. Like, I can get a couple mulligans here. I lose to whatever at Penn State, they're going to fire me immediately. James Franklin didn't even lose. Like, they were talking about how Franklin only beat, who'd they play? Like Villanova by like 30 this year? Like, man, he should have really been running it up. It's like, do you want him to be Oregon? Because Oregon runs it up on everybody. That's what I've been telling fellow Michigan fans. Like, do you want to be Oregon running the score up and then losing a bunch of head scratchers? Like, yeah, Michigan was on the road, freshman quarterback. That's their only 2 losses this year. Going on the road against Michigan State. If they blow it and the offense sucks again, I hope people start to realize it's not the defense as the issue. I think some people are still triggered by Don Brown and realizing that when Harbaugh made that swap, the defense went like conservative to like a bend but don't break, and that really worked. And I think Michigan could still do that, but you have to have a reliable offense to do that. You got to have both. You got to have just a reliable offense. And yeah, like you said, who's out there that's better? If you can't get Cignetti or bring in Urban Meyer, which we don't even know how Urban would work in NIL, right? We don't. He was one of the guys that benefited from having like his own bag, man. He talked about it. That guy followed in from Utah to Florida to Ohio State. How would he do with NIL? I don't know. If he's at a top program, though, like if he lands at, because like I could see A&M or Texas, like at some point they have to get fed up with the results and they have to try to bring in a hero coach like that. Don't you think?
I mean, you can try, but it's not a guarantee.
Yeah, there's not that many hero coaches left. Like you bringing in a Dabo Swinney that just got fired for being horrible. Like the only guy that kind of went out, and he wasn't even out on top, was Urban. And then his replacement has pretty much been better than him, right? Except for losing to Michigan. That's like the only thing that's been a knock on Ryan Day. And only winning one championship. But Urban only won one championship at Ohio State too. So they're even there. It's really just a Michigan thing. I don't think Ohio State would want Urban back. That's where I'll end it. Like if he ends up at Penn State, would that be an upgrade? It'd be funny. I mean, maybe not funny because Urban does really hate Michigan, I think, at this point. I don't need more coaches that hate Michigan. My absolute nightmare would be if Penn State did steal DeBoer, because I feel like Michigan cost him a national championship. Then he beat him at Alabama to get him like really annoyed. So I think he would put a lot of energy against us. And then if Michigan State brings in Urban and we had to play like Ryan Day and Urban and DeBoer frequently, I don't think I would like that.
It just depends on which version you get. If you get the early season one, you can beat them. if you get the late season version, you could end up losing by 70.
Yeah, you don't know. That's why why play the game at all, right? Just let him hire Brian Kelly and let Michigan State just hire anybody that's awful, right? Let them hire Matt Rule. He can't beat us. We need guys consistently. Like I'm still saying, and I know we're at time here, that my last thought is if Penn State hires Matt Rule, that's going to give me such a sigh of relief. I don't even know how to express it. Right? Because I think they're knocking on the door. You have money. They're throwing it around in hockey, stealing like the number one ranked recruit that was a Michigan State battle. Penn State swoops in and pays NIL to get him. Right? If they're able to do that in all these other Olympic sports, they're able to do it in football too. So if they have a guy that has NIL put together and they have a coach that can take advantage of that, whether they get like someone like Lane Kiffin who doesn't really come up north but has like Southern ties or whatever, to me that would be the pitch. Like, look, dude, you're getting beat up. Come play. Did you see our schedule? We only had 2 good games. We blew Oregon, and then we didn't even make it to the other one, Ohio State. Right? Come up here. It's a good pitch, dude. It is a good pitch with the way the schedule's set up right now. They don't have any protected rivals, really. I think they only get Ohio State, and that's it. You have Michigan every couple years. You have USC every couple years. Like this year, they had Oregon and Ohio State. That was it. That's why I think the Franklin dumping, people realize that like Michigan's rotating back on. USC is going to be rotating back on, Franklin. You couldn't get through this year with your return, and the funniest thing is they have that commercial that shows Drew Aller getting NIL things. Did you see that? With that one actor, he's like in everything. It's like a Dodge ad. It was on last night in the NFL game. The guy, I think he was like in that prison movie with Adam Sandler playing football. Like the jacked dude that like always flexes. It's him. And he like gives a shout out to Drew Aller. And I was like, oh my gosh. They're just not going to delete this ad? right? At this point, not even playing. They're like, well, we can't reshoot it, right?
We've already spent the money.
Already spent the money. So that's it for me. You have anything else you want to talk about?
No, that's it.
All right, let us know your top coach picks, right? Who do you want to see at Penn State, at Florida? And do you think some of the other coaches we mentioned will get fired? Let us know, and we will see you next week.